Algae tell actually the most ancient story about landscapes. Cyanobacteria, these were actually the first organisms on this planet to start photosynthesizing and the first organisms to start creating oxygen in our atmosphere. Without them, we would not have any landscape. My name's Jessie French. I'm coming to you from Boonwurrung country in Melbourne, Naarm, on eastern Kulin country. And I am an artist that specialises in algae-based polymers. I've always been interested in how things work, and my art practice has quite a scientific angle to it as well. Often I do get questions about hybridity in the way that I work and links between art and science, but I think what is important to keep in mind is that these distinctions are fairly recent, and also to kind of think about where they came from. So distinctions between different sectors of knowledge come from a very Western canon of pedagogy, and it kind of links back to this, I guess, tower of knowledge. There's the process that happens when I'm physically in here making the thing, which is somewhat like making a soup. It's cooked in a big saucepan on an induction hot plate and mixing materials and kind of having this tacit knowledge of knowing when something's ready, when something needs a little bit more of something, and then pouring it out into a mold, basically. Then there's a process of curing and removing from the mold and finishing off. But then there's the process of the actual development of those polymers. And it's that process that really is informed by my study in history and philosophy of science, looking at laboratory practices. The issues that are in front of us that concern, the materials that we use seem overwhelming, and it was something that I was interested in. I guess these solutions and things like that are very appealing because they do give some kind of hope that we are not just going to continue the way that we are and getting deeper and deeper into this crisis. Algae is an interesting connector because petrochemical plastics are made from fossil fuels that are mined very ancient algae. And so the connection there was quite nice, but also algae are readily renewable. They also have this beautiful potential, particularly the microalgae that I grow here in the studio and I use as pigments. They can be grown anywhere. They can be grown in apartments where you don't even have access to the open air. What attracts me to algae as a making material is that it is renewable. It can be regrown, and it's a very nice distinction that we have where it is the ancient algae that are creating such a problem, that are mined so destructively and that are such a finite resource, and then we can use this new algae as well. Also that it can be grown outside of its natural ecosystems. I have criticism of a lot of the big plans for monoculture seaweed farming. I don't think that introducing monocultures is any kind of solution to any ecosystem problem, but the fact that you can take particularly microalgae and you can grow them in an environment that doesn't affect ecosystems in their natural environment is also really, really beneficial. Reality is that I'm just a person in a studio independently researching this in a pretty rudimentary way. I don't have a laboratory or PhDs of knowledge at my disposal. I think it's a way of showing that the change is not that tricky. It can be done. We can do things differently. This idea of building on what's already there is so relevant to the work that I'm making for the Biennale. It speaks to these things that we do already have here. We don't need to constantly look for new solutions. This is something that's already around. But I also think, going back to that critique about where things come from, I often get people talking about my work as something that is working with nature or using nature in some way. And I think that's where we really need to get to and question where this idea of us being outside of nature has come from.